I'm sure pretty much everyone watching by now has heard about the allegations against Russell Brand, and you're wondering what to make of it all. So I'd like to give you some idea of how to think about this in this video, although I can't give you any firm answers, and I certainly can't give you any opinions, because I haven't seen any evidence, and I don't think there is any evidence to see as yet. Only the reports on reports that have been made. So in this video, I'm going to go through what I think and how we should all think about this situation, because some of it I think is right and some of it is perhaps a little bit unfair. But first of all, if you're new to me, I am Daniel Shensmith, a barrister of England and Wales. I enjoy helping you to understand law, so please do hit that like button and subscribe at any point if you find this video useful. So what are we really talking about here? Well, there are some very serious allegations against Russell Brand that follow an investigative report, which was a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times and Channel 4's dispatches about what happened between 2006 and 2013. They broadly involve 4 different women and allegations of varying degrees of severity and seriousness. The most serious of which appears to be from a woman who claimed that she was raped by him in Los Angeles and that he'd stopped her from leaving. Now, these are allegations which he has flat out denied, which I'll show you in a minute, his preemption of this report that came out and what he has said, or a part of what he has said about it. And so it's important to firm up here that all of these are allegations. And interestingly, whilst there was a report apparently made to the police in 2003, there is a police statement which doesn't suggest that there is any actual police investigation at the moment, albeit it does state that they've received information, spoken with the newspapers, and so on. So let's start with that. The short statement from the Metropolitan Police says, we're aware of reporting by the Sunday Times and Channel 4's dispatches about allegations of sexual offences. On Sunday the 17th of September, the Met received a report which was alleged to have taken place in Soho, central London, 2003. Officers are in contact with the woman and will be providing her with support. We first spoke with the Sunday Times on Saturday the 16th of September and have since made further approaches to the Sunday Times and Channel 4 to ensure that anyone who believes they have been the victim of a sexual offence is aware of how to report this to the police. We continue to encourage anyone who believes they may have been a victim of a sexual offence, no matter how long ago it was, to contact us. And so that is in essence what the response is from the Met Police. So whilst they say that there was a report of an assault in 2003. It doesn't say that anything else happened. There were no charges. And to my knowledge, at the time of recording this, there are no charges current or pending either against Russell Brand, just the allegations that have been published in the media. But firstly, what are we to think of this? And secondly, what has been the main reaction that I've seen and real reaction that has happened? And do we think that is fair? And do we think that it is legal? Well, first of all, the reaction has, as you can imagine, been starkly split and polarizing. Some people flat out believing the allegations on the face and believing from his obvious past, which you'll know if you know anything of Russell Brand. He's been very open about what his life was like then, and he's open about it now as to how he's changed. So many people against that backdrop have almost immediately believed the allegations. Now, I'm not saying at this point in time whether I believe them or whether I don't believe them. I personally don't think there is nearly enough to give anybody an informed decision, an opinion as to what really happened here. But there seems to be this polarizing discussion. Some people believing flat out that these are obviously all true, and on the other side of that, believing that they are just allegations, that there's no way they can be proven, and it is just an attack on his character, and as some say, and he says himself, a coordinated attack by the media. Now, what are we to make of that? Well, as you're I consider myself your advocate to a degree, your advocate to rely on, to come to hear different bits about law, how we approach law, how we approach cases. Now, I'll make clear here that I am not a specialist criminal practitioner. I have done criminal work. I predominantly do business, company, and consumer type cases. So in the civil courts, I have done a lot of family work as well, which does overlap quite significantly with these sorts of cases, which is where I'm able to comment on these with some level of experience. So what I would say about these is that in the family courts, it is a different standard of proof. In the criminal courts, not that there are any allegations that I'm aware of, charges that I'm aware of so far. But in the criminal courts, if there were charges in the criminal courts, it would obviously be to the criminal standard. These would obviously be going to the Crown Court if they did go forward, and they would be to that criminal standard of proof, which is so that a jury is sure that something happened and that there is no reasonable doubt left. Whereas in the family courts and even the civil courts, everything is decided on the balance of probabilities. So it's a different standard of proof. And depending on the seriousness of those allegations, whilst it remains the balance of probabilities, the more evidence is required for the more serious allegations. So when we have allegations of this nature, but in the family court, then the family court will decide on the balance of probabilities, but taking into account and weighing up the seriousness of the allegations, whether or not those are proven or not proven, as the case very often is. Now, this is very much the point here. These allegations are often made and often not proven. They are often proven in the family court. And so the family court will then go on to make decisions as to whatever it would make a decision on, such as childcare, living arrangements, and so on, if those allegations were proven to be true or not proven. So these allegations are very often made and not proven. Why are they not proven? Well, there would not be sufficient evidence to back up the allegation. But this is where we lead into where we are currently, because a lot of these things happened a long time ago, and whilst that is certainly no reason for them not to be investigated, it's certainly no reason for them not to be charged if there were sufficient evidence to meet the Crown Prosecutor's Code for prosecution, which is a two-part test. First of all, is there enough evidence that if a jury properly directed could convict on that evidence? And secondly, if so, is it in the public interest to prosecute that offence? And so before we take a little look at what might be the evidence to underpin any of these allegations, if the police were to consider passing it to the CPS for charge authorisation, let's take a look at what Russell Brand himself had to say
you
about
Awakening
this.
Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
So just pausing there. So the letters that he talks about have suggested that certain things should be stopped. So presumably they take the view that because of the seriousness of these allegations that he shouldn't be doing public appearances and all of that sort of stuff, but also flat out denying these allegations outright. But let's listen to a little bit more.
These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand.
So you can watch the full video. I'll link it in the description below. So you can hear from what he's saying there that he is hinting that there might be some kind of coordinated attack. Well, there's no hint at all, really. Whether it is a justified attack or not is another matter. That's not for me to comment on or to give you my opinion about. But it is certainly a coordinated effort. It is admittedly so by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4's dispatches. It is quite clearly a coordinated effort for them. They are investigative journalists. They've obviously dug up enough information, contact details to speak to these women that have spoken to the papers and provided them details of these allegations. But that's not the end of the matter. These are allegations that have now been put forward. And whether or not they go forward to a charge is entirely another matter. And that's obviously a matter for the police and the CPS to discuss if they do so choose to move forward with that. But the main problem that I've seen so far, and I say it's a problem in the sense that this is what happens when these allegations surface, is that his shows have been put on indefinite suspension. His monetization with YouTube has been suspended from what I've read. And YouTube obviously has the deciding voice as to whether they do that or not, as in Google, the parent company, has a choice as to whether they do that or not. They can choose not to allow monetization on that channel if there are these serious allegations in the air. Whether that continues or not is, again, another matter. Google may well be waiting to see whether charges are pursued by the police and the CPS. And if not, and if there is a statement by the police to the effect that those are not forthcoming, then Google might well re-enable the monetization of his channel, which is where most people believe that the majority of his revenue comes from. As I've read this afternoon, the majority of the efforts by him and his team are to direct people to his YouTube channel, as that is likely to be the more serious monetization method for him. They estimate several £1,000s per video. But that has all been put on hold pending, I don't know, really, indefinitely, or pending the outcome of any, if any, police investigation or any response from the police. Or this may well be a permanent decision by YouTube. I don't know. What I do believe, though, is that that there must be enough information collected by the news companies that may not have been made public, that they've probably passed to YouTube, Google, and they presumably would have made that decision based on any information that they have been given. And the final point that I think I'll leave you with is this, that memories of events can be clouded, they can be corrupted, and neuroscientists' current belief is that when we recall a memory, we're not actually recalling a memory, we are recreating it each time. And each time it can be slightly different, and each recollection can be very slightly different. Now, neuroscientists now believe that you can be absolutely convinced that an event unfolded in a certain way. And that is, of course, not to say that the memories of these women making these allegations are not correct and not accurate, but it is also to say that they can be mistaken and they can be misremembering things. I am not a neuroscientist, but I rely upon the information provided by neuroscientists that memories can be false, in that you can misremember something, you can be absolutely adamant that a certain thing happened in a certain way, but that is because you've recalled it again and again, and a little bit like fading and repetition and the cloning effect of a memory. Every time you recall it, it could be very slightly different and then becomes unreliable. Where the court system comes in is that if there were charges pushed forwards, and if these women were to come forward to give evidence, they will be cross-examined and their accounts will be cross-examined, and the jury will be invited to conclude whether or not they are to believe these allegations. But not before a lot of this damage has been done to the reputation. As happened with Kevin Spacey, he had his career shot and then was found not guilty. Not guilty, by the way, is not the same as innocent. Whilst there is a presumption of innocence until found guilty, a finding of not guilty is not a finding of innocence. It is just that the jury, if they do come to a verdict of not guilty, that is the verdict that they reach. Many people do take that to mean that it is innocent, and that is for you to decide. But just know that it is not the same as a finding of innocence. No such finding is open to a jury. So in conclusion, what do we know? We only know what has been reported by the media. We only know the allegations that's been reported by the media. We don't know of any full-on police investigation. We don't know that they are considering charges as yet. And if indeed that happens, then that will be a whole separate story, and the police will obviously have to investigate and collect evidence. That is their role and their job. After which it is passed to the CPS to consider whether charges are to be authorised. After all, these are very serious allegations. But as yet, this appears to be just the very beginning of what might turn out to be a very long process indeed. So in the meantime, if you found that at all useful, please do consider hitting the like button and subscribe. That helps my channel grow. And as always, thank you for watching.